Hello, excellent people. This is your daily excellence for May the 2nd, 2021. And today we're going to talk about the speed of decision making. I was driving to the job site for today. It was a long drive, so I found a Gary Vaynerchuk Marketing for the Now, the most recent one as of today's date. I think it was from this past week. And he was asking folks how they foster quick decision making in their workplaces. And he was specifically putting this in the context of these companies that are bigger, have lots of corporate structure, and thus have a lot of slow decision making. And his bias is fairly clear, which is great because he's a pretty transparent guy about as far as his biases go, where he was saying that even his own company doesn't make decisions as fast as he wants it to make them. And he was creating kind of this dichotomy between sort of fast decision and slow decision making. Not saying that one was better than the other, but definitely creating this sort of polarized environment. And I think that there's definitely a barbell effect there, where, in my experience, you either want to be making very quick decisions that are based on very immediate information that have an immediate impact, or you want to be making really slow decisions. And it's the in between decisions to watch out for. So, um, I guess a couple of things come to mind for me. I think I want to tell a story first. So, there's an author named James Clavell who wrote some books, I think they're pretty well back, maybe the 60s or even earlier. And he wrote a book called Shogun that he's very famous for. And I listened to the audiobook of Shogun once upon a time. No, actually, I think I actually read it. Okay, so I actually read the physical copy. Anyway, Shogun has a character who's, I'm pretty sure his name is Toranaga, although now I might be mixing it up with a character from a movie. So suffice it to say that in this movie, or in this book, there is a character who is one of the main military warlords. He's not the main character, but he's like the patron of the main character. And this character is so reputed among all of his peers and everybody in the whole of Japan in this shogunate period, uh, as being like the ultimate strategist. Like nobody can beat him. And throughout the book, what we see is this character. I'm going to call him Toranaga, even if that's the wrong name, and I apologize. Toranaga is never making a decision, or he seems to never be making a decision. He seems to always be delaying. And it's an interesting strategy because what ends up happening is time and time and time again, he is more patient, and his opponents reveal themselves in some way or another. They reveal their weaknesses. And every time, that they want to meet him on the battlefield, he takes his sweet time getting to the battlefield. Every time that, like, there's one scene where I remember he went and he was supposed to be at this battlefield, and instead they take a couple of extra days to go do some sort of like fancy tea ceremony. And the point was that he kept couching all this stuff in these sort of cultural pomp and circumstance, so that he has like a legitimacy to his actions where he's saying, oh no, I'm just following the forms. But he followed the forms better than anyone else, and to a T more so than anyone else. And in so doing, he always forced everyone else to reveal their hand, and then he acted only minimally upon those revealed hands. And so I think that the the lesson that I took from that, and the lesson I want to draw attention to right now, is the slow decision making process allows you to make very, very minimal effort action, versus the fast decision making process forces you to be much more effortful with every single action, and you are more effortful in the aggregate as well. And I don't think that there's a bad or a good. I would argue that if you kind of follow along the trajectory that I've been arguing for the past couple of weeks of kind of setting long-term strategic goals that are rooted in your core values and making your decisions and framing all of your decision making through that reference point, I think if you did that, you would find that you could set a fair bit of things into motion and let them play themselves out. And if you did so, you would not have to act very much on those things. And then most of your short term action, most of your fast action is really just orientation action rather than setting new courses. And so this isn't really what Gary Vee was asking about per se, although maybe it was. And, I'll tag him in this and he may or may not watch it. He probably won't, and that's okay. I'm not yet important enough to draw the attention of people who are more famous than me, and that's quite all right too. I'll just keep on putting in the work and we'll see where it goes. But it definitely got my attention to think about business. So, my friend Andrew has a mushroom business, and he's been growing gourmet mushrooms for 6 or more years now, maybe going on 7. And it was a very difficult lesson for me to learn as a principal investor and minority partner in the business who has functioned as a strategic consultant primarily. I mean, I'm a board member. That's what it really comes down to. I'm a board member with no actual job in the business. And I was always dissatisfied in the early stages with how long everything took to get done. We'd talk about rolling something out, and it always took longer than I thought it should. But then it always like more often than not, it rolled out well. And so I think back on it and I'm like, I learned a valuable lesson about how nothing ever happens as fast as you think it will, or you think it should, or you want it to. And so I, with my own business, have really taken this start. So my business, my tree company, is 2.5 years old. So I got to learn some hard lessons through my friend's business first. And now I'm able to have already learned some of those lessons and not make some of the mistakes that I would have made had I not. And one of those is I just don't worry too much about the timing of things. And that sometimes that may lead to me missing opportunities if there are fast acting opportunities. But then again, I'm able to act quickly when necessary. And so that's, I guess, the thing that is hard to really pin down with words, and it's more of a sort of an experiential wisdom kind of thing where you know when to act fast and when not to. And that's the key to this Toranaga character, where he is so skilled that he knows where to apply himself and when to wait. And so I guess if I was trying to sum up the point of this particular day's talk, I'm going to be moving a bit more towards a narrative for a little while. I've decided that I want to take a little bit of a step back from authoritative speaking and speak a bit more in a narrative fashion. So today was my first exploration into that, where I'm really just trying to share some thoughts and share some things that the things that I'm watching and reading have me thinking about. And my hope is that if I use this more narrative format and people are interested in listening to the narrative, people will also share more because I'm speaking less authoritatively, and we can create a bit more of a conversation. Because I will tell you, I have a major goal, which is creating conversations so that I personally can learn and grow. So this project, this Aim at Excellence, this is not me telling you how to aim at excellence. This is me aiming at excellence and documenting the process along the way. And so I don't know that I have a takeaway from today other than I do think that there's value in both the slow action, the slow decision making, and the quick decision making. And so I'll leave it there for now, and I'll ask you, do you have a preference? What structures do you have in place to facilitate slow decision making versus quick decision making? Let's discuss this in the comments, and we'll talk more about it later on. I appreciate you watching.